أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله تعالى على حبيبه محمد وآله وسلم. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our segment on Surah Yunus. Inshallah, today we will cover the fourth Ruku of Surah Yunus, verses 31 to 40. May Allah grant us the ability to understand the true meanings of the Quran by the grace of His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen. With this dua, let's begin the fourth Ruku of Surah Yunus. Verse 31. Qul may yarzuqukum minas samai wal ardi amman yamliku as-sama wal absara wa may yukhrijul hayya minal mayyiti wa yukhrijul mayyita minal hayyi wa may yudabbirul amr فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. Say, who provides for you from the sky and the earth? Or who is a master of hearing and sight? And who brings the living out of the dead, and brings the dead out of the living? And who arranges matter? They say, Allah. So say, then will you not be mindful? Allah provides us with everything that we need. The basic meaning of provision here is to give something at a fixed time. It refers to all the resources and abilities that are provided by Allah to every living being to live and survive. This includes our parents, our relatives, our friends, our teachers, our intellect and understanding, resources for our livelihood, such as food, water, air, and shelter. It also includes all our skills, abilities, and wealth that we accumulate. All of these things have been provided to us by Allah, and He has arranged for our guidance so that we can come out of the darkness of denial and shirk and walk on the straight path in order to be enlightened about the reality of Allah and ourselves. He has also made all the necessary arrangements for our worldly and spiritual development and growth. In order for us to do shukr, to use the resources and abilities provided to us properly, it is important that we use them according to the ways taught to us by Allah and His beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that everything that we do becomes for the care of Allah. Let's go on to verses 32 and 33. فَذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقُّ فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالُ فَأَنَّى تُصْرَفُونَ. For that is Allah, your Lord, the reality. So what can be beyond reality except error? So how are you averted? كَذَلِكَ حَقَّتْ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّكَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ فَسَقُوا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Thus proved real the word of your Lord upon those who defiantly disobeyed, that they will not believe. These verses are telling us the reality of Allah, that it is He who has provided for us all the resources and abilities necessary for our physical, psychological, and spiritual development, and provided for us a means of guidance. Apart from reality, there is nothing else left except falsehood, which would lead us to error. So which path do you want to follow? The path that will lead you to the light and mercy of Allah, or the path that will lead you to darkness and falsehood? If you choose the latter, that is disbelief and denial of the truth, then you will remain deprived of Allah's blessing and guidance, and remain with the burden of suffering and hardships. Let's go on to verse 34. قُلْ هَلْ مِنْ شُرَكَائِكُمْ مَن يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ قُلِ اللَّهُ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ فَأَنَّى تُؤْفَكُونَ. Say, are there of your partners any who originates the design and then repeats it? Say, Allah originates the design and then repeats it. So how are you deluded? Allah has originated and intricately designed this whole universe and all the creatures in it. There was nothing before its existence. There were no resources. His order causes anything to come into existence from nothing. He just says for it to be, and it is. As stated in Surah Yasin in verse 82, where it says, His command is only when He intends a thing that He says to it, be, and it is. Allah has designed the system in such a way that it keeps repeating in cycles. We live and we die. A moment comes and the same moment disappears. Things are created and then they diminish. We, on the other hand, don't have the ability to do that. We depend on the resources provided to us by Allah to live and to create, and then keep going. But when we leave this world, who will create it again when we are not there? A little reflection shows that this is impossible for any being, and only Allah can do it. When this is so clear, then what prevents us from coming to the realization? Let's go on to verses 35 and 36. قُلْ هَلْ مِنْ شُرَكَائِكُمْ مَن يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ قُلِ اللَّهُ يَهْدِي لِلْحَقِّ أَفَمَن يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ أَحَقُّ أَن يُتَّبَعَ أَمَن لَّا يَهْدِي إِلَّا أَن يُهْدَىٰ فَمَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. Say, are there of your partners any who guides to the reality? Say, Allah guides to the reality. So is he who guides to the reality more worthy to be followed, or he who guides not unless he is guided? Then what is with you? How do you judge? وَمَا يَتَبِّعُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ إِلَّا ظَنًّا إِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَفْعَلُونَ. And most of them follow not except assumption. Indeed, the assumption avails not against the reality at all. Indeed, Allah is knowing of what they do. Nobody knows the reality of Allah and everything in it except for Him. And nobody knows the reality of themselves either, except for the one who created them. Therefore, no one can better guide us to this realization except Him, His Messenger, the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and those given guidance by them. Anybody else is incapable of truly guiding anyone to this realization. So the question then arises, who do you want to be guided by? Those who commit shirk, that associate partners with Allah, are ignorant of this reality. So they follow their own assumptions instead. They become oblivious to the fact that Allah exists and knows everything that they do, and they will eventually have to face Him and be accountable for their deeds. Let's go on to verse 37. وَمَا كَانَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ أَن يُفْتَرَى مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَلَكِنْ تَصْدِيقَ الَّذِي بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ وَتَفْصِيلَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ مِن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. And it was not for this Quran to be produced by other than Allah, except a confirmation of what was before it and a detailed explanation of the book, about which there is no doubt, from the Lord of the worlds. The Holy Quran was created by the revelations of Allah. It is a confirmation of what was, what is, and what can be. As we read the Quran, we are reminded of all that existed before. It has all been recorded in history. It confirms all the divine books revealed before it and preserves their contents. It has been sent to guide those who seek guidance as to what to do and not do. It is a book of factual realities in which there is no uncertainty. If you have doubt in your mind, you will not get guidance from the Quran. And this is also mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah in verse 2. Let's go on to verse 38. أم يقولون افتراه قل فأتوا بسورة مثله وادعوا من استطعتم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. Or do they say, he invented it? Say, then bring forth a surah like it, and call upon whomever you can other than Allah, if you are truthful. Despite the factual realities stated in the Quran, the skeptics deny them, saying that it has been made up. So Allah is challenging them in this verse to make up a surah or chapter like it, if they can, and see if they will be able to without calling to Allah for help. And as stated in Surah Al-Baqarah in verse 24, they will never be able to do such a thing. Instead, they will be punished. Allah has repeated this challenge throughout the Quran. It is mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah in verse 23, and also in Surah Hud in verse 13. Let's go on to verses 39 and 40. بَلْ كَذَّبُوا بِمَا لَمْ يُحِيطُوا بِعِلْمِهِ وَلَمَّا يَأْتِهِمْ تَأْوِيلُهُ كَذَلِكَ كَذَّبَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَانظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الظَّالِمِينَ. Rather, they have rejected that which they encompass not in knowledge, and whose interpretation has not yet come to them. Thus did those before them reject. Then observe how was the result of the wrongdoers. وَمِنْهُمْ مَا يُؤْمِنُ بِهِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَا لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِهِ وَرَبُّكَ أَعْلَمُ بِالْمُفْسِدِينَ. And of them are those who believe in it, and of them are those who do not believe in it. And your Lord is most knowing of the corrupters. Here it is stated that those who reject the Quran do so because they are not aware of the actual meanings of the revelations. Allah has given examples of others like them in the past, and if they continue to reject in His signs, then their fate will be like theirs. It's a matter of reflection. Allah has reminded us throughout the Quran to reflect upon His signs, so we can come to know and understand the realities. As stated in Surah Muhammad in verse 24, where it says, "Then do they not reflect upon the Quran, or are there locks upon their hearts?" And among the people, there are those who believe in the Quran and the Holy Prophet and there are also those who do not believe and spend their lives following the dark path of denial and shirk. And Allah is most aware of them. This concludes our segment on Ruku 4 of Surah Yunus. Let's go over some points from this Ruku. Don't make assumptions. They are far from reality, and they don't get us anywhere in life. It's important to seek and strive to discover the reality of our existence. What we have been taught by our culture, traditions, and societal norms may be far from reality. The Quran is a divine book, not authored by a human being. It affirms all the messages conveyed by the prophets that came before it, and is free of any uncertainty. Allah has challenged us that if we don't believe what the Quran says, then bring something like it. Even a surah, we won't be able to, and that is a fact. May Allah grant us the ability to understand the Holy Quran and its true meanings in light of the life and guidance of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Ameen. Thank you for joining us for this segment. Until next time. Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. Allah speaks the truth, the exalted, the great. Sallallahu ta'ala ala habibihi Muhammadin wa alihi wa sallam.